What's up, captains? Now, before we dive into today's episode, I would love if you would lend me your ears and listen to a word from our amazing sponsors. Because remember, your support to my sponsors is what allows me to keep bringing you these illuminating conversations each and every week. Keep in mind, I only accept sponsors who I personally use and support, and I will never promote anything to you that does not meet the captain's lifestyle standards, which are extremely fucking high. With all that being said, let's kick it right off with LAMS. So LAMS is basically wearable antioxidants. How is that possible, Taylor? Well, it's possible because LAMS clothing are made out of silver fibers that block up to 99% of EMFs. What are EMFs? EMFs are electromagnetic fields that cause oxidative stress in the body. And EMFs are emitted from all electronic devices. So your cell phone, your computer, laptop, things like that. 5G towers, especially, are now popping up everywhere. And LAMS protects you from up to 99% of the harmful damages, which some things that you'll notice almost instantaneously if exposed to high levels of EMFs are things like headaches, irritability, fatigue, brain fog, trouble sleeping, inflammation, stuff that most of us struggle with, right? So by reducing our oxidative stress, we reduce all of those symptoms. And to get the hookup on anything from LAMS, you could head over to getlams.com, enter code Captain Morgan. That will save you 10% off of the healthiest clothes that you'll ever wear. It's like wearing blueberries. And bonus, for each purchase, they also donate 5 meals to Feeding America. That's a freaking win-win if I've ever heard of one. So not only can you wear blueberries, but you may actually be giving blueberries to somebody else. So wear your antioxidants, give antioxidants to somebody else, support LAMS, head over to getlams.com, enter code Captain Morgan. That will save you 10%. Next up, this episode is brought to you by Ketone IQ from HVMN. Ketone IQ is an amazing little supplement that I have been hooked on for 2 reasons. One, mental clarity. I take 1 serving in the morning when I'm fasted before I start my work, and it's amazing to give you that mental boost, especially first thing in the morning when you're in an overnight fasted state. It really just supercharges everything. And second, and this is the most exciting thing that I've found from taking Ketone IQ, is the amount of physical endurance that I have. So I use it as a pre-workout. I take 2 shots in the morning when I'm still fasted. Usually I work out fasted in the mornings. I take 2 shots and it's incredible. Like I said, the amount of physical endurance is unparalleled. I really haven't felt that level of endurance or stamina with any other supplement that I've taken. So I am very excited to continue using Ketone IQ. I've just started experimenting with it before bed because I just recently interviewed one of the scientists who works for Ketone IQ, Dr. Lat Manser, and he mentioned that it may help with sleep. So I've been starting to take it before bed as well. And I will keep you guys posted on those results. But anyways, to get the hookup on Ketone IQ, to try this out, this little rocket fuel in a bottle for yourself, head over to hvmn.com or click the link in the show notes and enter code Captain Morgan 10. That will save you 10% on the world's best exogenous ketones. There are other liquid ketone supplements out there, but they all taste like shit. And you may think that this tastes like shit, but that probably means you haven't tried the other ketone supplements out there because they are god awful. I had a chance to try some at the Metabolic Health Summit down in Santa Barbara, and gosh, Ketone IQ blows all the other ones out of the water. It's, but yeah, Ketone IQ, get the hookup, hvmn.com, use code Captain Morgan 10 and supercharge your brain and your body. With all that being said, let's dive into today's episode. Whew. Hello, and welcome aboard another episode of the Captain's Lifestyle Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Taylor Morgan. On today's episode, we have another special guest. His name is Joe Vennare. The E is Italian, I just learned. And Joe is the founder of Fitt Insider, which is a platform on the business of fitness and wellness. In addition to that, he leads their media efforts. He hosts the company's weekly podcast where he's interviewed hundreds of the industry's top leaders. So, Joe Vennare, welcome to the show.
Yeah, stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So, the E is Italian. I'm still laughing about that.
Yeah.
So, talk to us, because I heard you on another podcast on your Italian family growing up, on how there was no, like, eating healthy or watching your weight just wasn't even a thought at family dinners, right? Talk to us a little bit about the Italian background there.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me. And just coming from a big Italian family and now basically making my career in health and fitness and doing that over the last, 15 or so years, it's couldn't be further from the way that we grew up. And it wasn't even that, health or fitness or anything was a thought. It was the exact opposite. It was the Italian grandmother and then my dad, like, hey, do you need seconds? Hey, do you need more? Hey, did you get enough? Hey, finish this off. We don't want any leftovers, or sending you out the door with, bags of leftovers if there were. So yeah, our whole life. And I think this would resonate with anybody from like a Italian family or even like immigrant parents or grandparents at all. It's like we came together around food. And then when you get enough food and drink and wine and all these things. So yeah, I think that really in a kind of weird way set me down the path of I had to undo everything that I learned as a kid.
Yeah. What was either the single, or I'm sure there were many kind of catalysts or turning points that kind of woke you up to how you were living before and how that was not sustainable for the long term?
For sure. I think it was just eventually the realization when you kind of look around and like, you're the chubby kid, all your friends are, not that they were in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, like trying to be super fit or healthy, but you just kind of noticed like, I'm the different one. Like I don't look like everybody else, or maybe I don't look the way that I want to look relative to everybody else. So you just have that time when you go through puberty and you start making friends that something starts to feel a little bit off. And about that same time for me, it was until that point, probably like 5th, 6th grade, like cute, right? It was like, oh, you have big cheeks, or, oh, you're Italian meatball, like whatever jokes that anybody would make.
The funny fat kid.
Yeah. But then at a point where it's like, oh, you want to start, maybe hanging out with girls, or you want to start going out with your friends, and you're not purely, at least in my case, just hanging out with family. It really kind of resonated. But like I was saying, fortunately at that time I got into football. So, middle school, probably started playing football, and, initially it was like linemen and you going through all that type of stuff, but slowly discovered strength training and weightlifting, and basically 6th grade to the present day, but really 6th grade to 9th grade, like lived in the gym and learned everything that I could about it. And it was the jumping off point for pretty much everything else in my life.
And what did the gym look like for you back then? Because I imagine it's progressed significantly.
Yeah, it's funny. We were just joking about this the other day. So my best friend from 6th grade, 7th grade is still my best friend today. So like almost 25 years at this point. And we met playing football and working out in the gym. So it was the school gym, whatever, in the field house, all types of rusted up equipment, whatever they could get in there, whatever people had donated or passed down, or the
garage sale.
Yeah, somebody picked up somewhere. So nothing special. But the funny thing was, and it super timely, again, we were just talking about this, we would break into the gym to make sure that we got our workouts in, or if we couldn't get to the local YMCA or whatever on the weekends, we'd go up to the field house and break in. You could kind of pry the door open enough to climb over the top and take the chain off the door. And so that's the type of mischief we were getting into, was, making sure that we get our workouts in. So yeah, it was super basic. And, you just went through and learned all the basic things, all the compound lifts, and of course, all the, muscle beach body kind of workouts so that you could, get a pump and flex. But that's what we spent our time doing.
How did you teach yourself the compound lifts?
I don't know that I mean, didn't teach myself, right? Like fortunately there were coaches in there and we took an interest to it. My buddy's name is Christian. And I think having the guidance obviously was super important. And then getting in with like a team sport like football, you have upperclassmen, you have coaches that come around, you have kids that had graduated and went on to play whatever Division I football that are coming back in the summers that help out. So yeah, we were just surrounded and immersed by it. But I think after a certain point, we were also reading and learning and watching every single video that we could about all these things. And I think initially for anybody that starts with like, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Men's Fitness and all the typical magazines. Bodybuilding.com. But for sure, bodybuilding.com. And you start looking around, you're like, man, why don't I look like them? And then you find out later why you didn't, you're not all geared up. But we were definitely committed to it. And again, that transition from football, and then I was still immersed in it and played Division II football in college. But all of the things around my life were also related to sports and football and weightlifting, because I started to, like, people noticed, right? You start to make that transformation. You start to get stronger. You start to go from maybe riding the bench to being a starter and team captain. So people start, hey, can you make me a workout plan? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what supplements do you take? So we started a little side business, making workout plans, helping people get supplements. We were basically, my brother and I, our first business was buying jugs of protein and breaking it down into little baggies and selling them in the cafeteria. So it looked like we were dealing drugs from the get. But yeah, it was definitely the start of that journey for me personally, but also my, entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. Natural born entrepreneur. And yeah, taking it back to high school football. I remember when I played high school football, they were trying to teach us how to do cleans, and like just form was so awful. Even on like deadlifts and squats, like nobody really knew how to squat. And I find that today, anytime I go to a gym, most of the time people are not squatting properly. And even I didn't learn how to squat properly until I took the CrossFit level 1 certification.
Yep.
And then they really dive deep into like the mechanics of it. And like how it's supposed to look. And that was a complete game changer. And I know that you opened a CrossFit gym, correct? Back in the day.
Yeah. It was kind of a organic evolution, right? We initially, like I said, we were making these workout plans, and in high school or whatever, middle school, or even after that, like, your buddies, you just come to the gym with me, whatever. I'll show you the workout. And normally they come 1 or 2 times and you never see them again.
Exactly.
So that happened. But then there was a certain point where, just to make a few bucks, we were teaching group fitness classes. And when I say we, my brother and I, we run Fitt Insider. We've worked together, for the last 12 or so years. And again, because we were in it, he also played football. He eventually went on to the Marine Corps, so has that kind of background too. Yeah. And so people were coming up to him as well, like, hey, how do you do this? Whatever. So we would teach, body weight, basically workout classes in the park. We would do it at the local YMCA. At this point, like, we didn't have any certifications or anything. We were just doing it. And then slowly, as momentum picked up, we were like, oh, we could probably do this pretty sustainably. Got, ACE, NASM, all these various personal training certifications, group fitness, World Kettlebell Club. What's the other one? The USA weightlifting. So started to kind of rack them up, and you go to all these different trainings. And then eventually, got our CrossFit level 1. And I think he ended up getting a couple other, maybe level 2, and then some of the auxiliary ones as well. But from that point of having a small following that we could train in the local parks and kind of around town, to subleasing spaces, to working out of a YMCA, there were, 50, 100 plus people that were working out with us on a rotating basis. So we were like, hey, we could probably open a spot. And I think maybe I was 20, he was 18, or maybe he was 19, I was 21, 22. We found a spot kind of in our local community. It was a skate park. So a 12,000 square foot, huge, it looked like an airport hangar. And It had been abandoned. And we went in one day because the guy had like a, for rent sign, whatever outside. We kind of said like, where's the spot that we could rent? And he was like, this is it. Still with the half pipes and everything still in it, graffiti everywhere, garbage everywhere. And we were like, well, how much is it? And he was like, well, if you basically help us renovate it, tear this down, get all this stuff out of here, $1,200 a month. So on that day, we had a handshake deal that we would rent a 12,000 square foot space for $1,200 a month, which was nothing.
Yeah, that's killer.
And we spent basically that long weekend working in there. A bunch of people, family, friends helped to clear it out, painted, laid AstroTurf, moved all the equipment in. And by that Tuesday, we opened up with like 200 members. It was pretty crazy.
Wow. That's incredible. What year was that?
I think 2009.
Okay. So
2009.
Yeah, that's when CrossFit was really starting to gain popularity. Yeah. So it makes sense that you started with that many members. Plus you already had this community that you were training beforehand. Yeah.
So the CrossFit piece of it was like, it was a very diverse kind of customer base, a member base that we had. We had basically moms, like soccer moms, stay-at-home moms that were doing body weight, kettlebell, and like calisthenic stuff with us. So we had that whole segment of the business, which was basically what we were doing in the parks and in the YMCAs. We had a little dolly, a push cart filled with kettlebells that we just dragged around everywhere that we went. And then there was their kids and basically their husbands who wanted to do the CrossFit style stuff. Mm-hmm. And then their younger kids who were doing like youth sports training that we did, just basic conditioning stuff, almost no weight, pretty much body weight stuff. So the CrossFit side, I think probably had more like 30-ish, 40 members to start, but then also grew. But the main business was like this body weight kettlebell that kind of anybody could do.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So it sounds like we have relatively similar backgrounds, starting with, lifting during high school football, then doing more traditional, like 24-hour style bodybuilding type stuff, then working our way up to more functional fitness and CrossFit and things like that. When did you start learning more about the other aspects of what actually makes fitness work, like the nutrition and the sleep and the mindset, all of those things?
Yeah, I actually think personally, I started to do that, I think, as part of that journey, right? Because I went from high school, probably 195 pounds, maybe 200 at most.
And how tall are you?
Like 6'1".
Okay.
So not huge, played tight end, defensive end, like outside linebacker, and then went to college and played a down defensive end at like 235 pounds. So that was all, nutrition, obviously, but also recovery in addition to all that strength training stuff that we were doing. So I was learning as I was going. And then getting out of that, I went from 230, whatever, to back down to like 165 and did endurance races. So triathlon, ultramarathon, trail running, which wasn't great for my body ultimately, making that big of a swing and beating myself down. And then trying to get back to what is a normal, sustainable life and still doing exercising, still, optimizing at this point for like energy levels and business and focus and all those things. So yeah, I'd say it's a work in progress. But in terms of, as it relates to like the industry and dealing with clients and things like that, I think for the most part, it's largely been siloed. Like even to this day, when you talk to a personal trainer, they really don't know that much. They're not trained, I should say. Maybe they do know, but they're not specifically trained to give you advice about nutrition, to give you advice about, maybe sleep optimization and those types of things. And certainly not, when you get into some other things like maybe mental health and all the issues that are going on with that. But now as you fast forward to the present day, like all of those things are kind of evolved into one. You take a more holistic view of well-being. You start to think about, oh, maybe I use my whatever Whoop or Oura Ring for this, and I maybe use my trainer or whatever for that. Yeah. And then I use, I have a nutritionist or I'm following some type of macro counting and I count that on an app separately. So yeah, it's still kind of evolving as like how we bring all these things together.
Yeah. And that, what you just described is exactly why I quit my job as a CrossFit coach and started doing what I do now.
Yep.
Because my athletes were coming up to me saying, hey, how can I do better pull-ups? And I was like, well, how'd you sleep last night? Oh, I slept like shit. Okay, well, you're not going to be able to do pull-ups better if your muscles aren't recovering from the work you did the day before.
Yep.
And then talking about nutrition and how stress plays a role in that, and inflammation and all these things. And they didn't give a shit. They just like, tell me how to work out faster.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I quit my job and started doing what I do now, holistic lifestyle specialist, because everything is connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned the Whoop and the Oura Ring. So let's talk about recovery for a second, because I wear both currently. Let's talk about first how important recovery is if you're going to be working out in the first place, kind of to what I just mentioned.
Yeah, it's the whole thing, right? You know, that I used to be of the mindset, and I still am to an extent, right? That, you know, if you are burning the candles at both ends, then it's better to exercise because it's going to give you some type of health benefits, as opposed to, you know, basically pushing your body to that limit stress wise or work wise or whatever, and then not making time to exercise. But I kind of mentioned that all because it's like all of those things are stressors, and those stressors put your body in a compromised position. And if you're not doing the things from a nutrition standpoint, if you're not doing the things from a sleep standpoint, if you're not doing the things from, you know, just, if you want to call it mental health or mindfulness or just state of mind, mindset standpoint, you're not going to be in a place where you can perform whatever performance is to you. And I think that was a hard thing, even as somebody who knows, right, that has studied this and helped other people with it and whatever. It's like, to a certain extent, your body can only do so much. It can only, you know, be pushed so hard without totally breaking down. And that's what ultimately will happen. So yeah, the recovery piece, or the, you know, preparing or being capable to perform piece, is everything.
It literally is everything. You get weaker when you work out. Your muscles are breaking down while you're working out. And then the sleep is primarily almost like 100% where you recover from that workout. So if people are missing out on sleep and they're crushing intense workouts, they might be making themselves weaker.
Yep.
So you hear all the time, like, oh, exercise reduces stress. Exercise reduces stress. And one of my buddies, Chase Tollison, he's a fitness coach as well and doing more mindset work now. He has this analogy. I hope I don't butcher it. It's something like, people who go to the gym, oh, of course I'm butchering it now. It's like, if you work out to forget about your life or whatever, you're using the gym as an alcoholic uses a bottle of tequila, right? So although it can absolutely be a positive stressor, a lot of people are using it as a still like safer and healthier version of these vices that they might have, but they're still beating their body down, and they're not addressing the real underlying issue of what is causing that stress that makes them feel like they have to go crush themselves in the gym. So
yeah, I just went through, like we said, work in progress, right? Like you go through periods of, you know, or phases or seasons of life where, you know, priorities shift. And I'm at one point in time, whatever, heads down, focused on a bunch of work projects. And, you know, maybe not for me, it's like, I'm not going to miss a workout. It's just really not an option. But the thing that did kind of fall by the wayside was sleep and nutrition. So to your point, exactly, I was not sleeping enough. I was not eating the right things. I was eating all healthy foods, but just not enough to, you know, for the amount of effort that I was putting in the gym and just general energy expenditure throughout the day. And so my body was breaking down, and I went to, you know, kind of expert program that evaluates, they do all these at-home tests, right? All the saliva, urine, stool, hair samples, blood, everything. And it came back, and he was just like, all you're doing is running your nervous system and endocrine system and everything into the ground. Your stress levels are off the charts. Like, you're not recovering from anything. Everything you're doing is diminishing all the effort that you put in to exactly to what you were saying. It was like, I was using that workout as like, oh, this is where I'm investing in my health. But in reality, because everything was so skewed in terms of, all the other aspects, it was all just going right down the drain. So yeah, I was now just like climbing out of that hole that I made for myself by the two things that they wanted me to do was eat and sleep. That's it. Like, continue to exercise, dial down the intensity. But like, if you're not prioritizing the nutrition and sleep piece, like, you're not going to get any results out of the stress of the workout.
We now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you more cool shit from our sponsors. So next up, this episode is brought to you by Aries. And if you're like me and you go to the gym and you go to the store and you travel on airplanes and you go to big cities with 5G towers, you are surrounded by EMFs. This is now just a fact of life, right? Unless you live out in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone signal or Wi-Fi, which some people do. But if you're listening to this podcast right now, you surely don't. That means that you're being bombarded by EMFs and you can't necessarily control that wherever you go, right? You can control it in your home to an extent. If you turn off the Wi-Fi router, you can keep your phone on airplane mode, but you're still getting some residual EMFs. That is why I wear Aries devices. So they make a whole host of devices. This one I've got around my neck right here is their personal. I've got the one that's actually called a device on my phone, this little sticker that you can place on anything. I've got one on my computer right here. They make bigger ones that are good for the entire room. And how this works is it actually draws in some of the chaotic energy from the EMFs and it modulates it so it becomes less harmful to the human body. So this isn't actually blocking any of the EMFs, but it makes it so it's less harmful to you. This is super cool. They actually just came out with a video. They had people take a phone call without the Aries device and then with the Aries device while they were hooked up to an EEG, which measures their brainwaves. And what they found was incredible. The first call with no Aries device lit up the brain. It was all red. You can see it in the video. Then the second call with the Aries device was better than their baseline, which is just incredible. So if you are like me and like most modern people, if you're listening to this podcast, you're surrounded by EMFs, at least protect yourself. And it's super simple. All you got to do is either stick the little device on your phone or wear it around your neck. They make ones that you can put in your wallet. They make ones that you can just place somewhere in the room and you're protected. It's incredible. And Aries is offering you guys an exclusive discount for listening to the Captain's Lifestyle podcast. If you head over to ariestech.com and enter the code Captain Morgan, that will save you 25% on these EMF modulating devices. Head over to the website to check out more information and get your exclusive discount. Next up, this episode is also brought to you by WaveBlock. So WaveBlock is this EMF blocking sticker that I've got on the back of my phone. And what's cool about them is they actually block some of the EMF that's being emitted from your phone from actually contacting your skin and messing you all up with oxidative stress, right? So if you're like me and you take your phone to the gym, which I do sometimes, and if you're like those people who take their phone into the saunas, which I do sometimes, if you're like those people who keep their phone in their pocket or their fanny pack, which I do, at least protect yourself with a WaveBlock sticker. And also keep your phone on airplane mode. Because not only does keeping your phone on airplane mode significantly reduce some of the EMFs because you're not getting the cell phone signal or the Wi-Fi signal, but if you have the WaveBlock sticker on the back of that too, that's just double whammy. So I keep my phone in my pocket now or my fanny pack, the backside facing me. So the EMF is blocked from contacting my body. It's super cool. And I actually measured it with my EMF meter because I was skeptical, like how much does this little sticker actually block the EMFs? Turns out it does significantly, or else I wouldn't be promoting it to you guys. And WaveBlock also makes stickers for AirPods. So instead of getting that Bluetooth directly into your earballs, then you can wrap the WaveBlock sticker around and you're protected. Simple as that. So again, they are giving an exclusive discount to listeners of the Captain's Lifestyle podcast. All you got to do is head over to waveblock.com, enter code Captain Morgan. That will save you 20% on these EMF blocking stickers. All right, now let's get back into today's episode. That is like the exact reason why I talk about exercise almost last in my coaching program, because I coach a lot of high level entrepreneurs, guys who are go, 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 right? That same alpha mindset. And a lot of them won't miss the workout, yet they're super stressed from their 14, 16-hour work days. They might have family stress. They're not eating properly because they are on the go, stressed out from work, but then they crush that workout. And so I'm glad that you gave that personal example. So it's not just coming from me like,
Yeah.
hey, motherfucker, you can still exercise, but tone it down a little bit. Like instead of working out, how about working in? Do some more like yoga activities, or just going for a walk, do sauna, like something like that, where you're not just pounding your body into the ground and not being able to recover.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there. It's like I've actually gone from, trying to get 5 or 6 days like structured workouts to now 4. But then on those other days, like on Sunday, I'll go for a hike. So go for like a 5-7 mile hike just off in the woods, no tech, no phone, no nothing. And then throughout the week, supplement that with, just take my dogs for a walk and spend that time outside and not really focus on anything, or go to a yoga class and just kind of like, I don't want to say go through the motions, but not be in there like, oh, how hard am I working? Like, oh, what's my heart rate? Like, am I hitting whatever metrics that I'm trying to do? So yeah, it's, like you said, something that I'm a prime example.
I think one of the reasons why this has started to happen is people have lost touch with feeling their bodies. So when they go into the gym, I don't think a lot of people, I know that I wasn't for the longest time, they're not actually feeling the contractions of the muscles. They're just kind of tuning things out. They're just listening to the music, whatever they're doing, and they are just kind of going through the motions. They're not really feeling what they're doing to their body. And so that's why I like to say, just move. Like you don't, if you're one of those people, how you used to be, how I used to be, who are over exercising and you're over exerting yourself, don't think of it as exercise. Just think of it as movement. Mm-hmm. Just go out and move and feel your body going through new ranges of motions. Are you familiar with what's it called? Like primal movement?
For sure. Yeah. There's like one of the first ones was that Move Natural. I'm
not familiar with it.
It's just a brand that kind of does this primal movement stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of more animalistic movements, like moving our bodies in ways that we've lost touch with as humans, because we're either standing or we're sitting, and most people are sitting for the majority of their day. So it's like, get some rotation in there, maybe crawl on the floor. Like, so getting into more of that mindset instead of just the typical 24-hour bodybuilding style movements.
Yeah. Not only that, it's interesting that you mention it, kind of getting in touch with, your body and listening to how you feel and being in tune that way, because that's one of the reasons why I stopped using any wearables whatsoever, because I was obsessing over the data. I was obsessing over hitting metrics or closing activity loops or what was my HRV, all this stuff. And I was like, I don't know, I feel great. This thing says I didn't recover well, or maybe I did or did whatever it says, but it's like, that's not how I feel. So am I even thinking about that? Am I taking that into consideration at all? Am I relying entirely on this device? And then maybe if I don't hit those whatever metrics, am I punishing myself for not doing that, or somehow stressing about that? Like, so yeah, I've taken a break probably over the last 8 or 10 months and just tried to, like, how am I feeling? If I need to sleep in, maybe I'll sleep in. Like if I need to, if I feel like I can go and push myself, I'll push myself and just let my body kind of guide me in that way.
Yeah. So many people who use wearables, the mind is so powerful. So if your Whoop, for example, tells you that you're only 27% recovered and you're in the red, and you woke up feeling good, and then you saw that and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to feel like shit today. And then you start feeling like shit. Yep. So people who have lost touch with their bodies, who aren't in tune with how they're actually feeling, they can have that experience that you had where you're overly relying on the data. I do recommend that people get it at least for a few months, just so they can see, like track their sleep schedules, like how much deep sleep are you actually getting? And then after that, like the only reason I wear these now is basically just if anybody wants to challenge me, like, do you really sleep as well as you say you do? It's like, okay, yeah, I've got the data for the past years, you know? Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't need these things to tell me how well I sleep.
Right. It's a huge accountability thing. It's a huge awareness thing that when you do it, that especially like you said, somebody who's just starting to like get a feel and to understand and to like maybe show you, this is happening now a lot with continuous glucose monitoring, like people who are not diabetic wearing them, whatever. And it's like, I tried those for a little bit too, just because to have an awareness of the technology and the companies in the space. And it's like, you do it for a couple weeks, a month, and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, obviously this thing that's not good for you spikes your insulin. These things that are like, they're good for you. Like, it all makes sense. And once you kind of establish that baseline, if you have the kind of discipline and accountability to do it, then it's like, you know, it doesn't necessarily play as big of a role. Yeah.
I say the same thing about macro tracking or calorie counting. I think so many people in the diet world, they get so caught up on the calories and the macros and the specific numbers, when that a lot of times stresses people out too much, where they have to hit that exact number, right? And so I recommend that people track their calories and track their macros for at least a month, maybe a few months, until you have a general understanding of what you're eating, what your actual intake is. Because most people either overestimate what they're eating, the hard gainers who say that they can't gain weight when they're really just not eating enough, which is me. And then the people who struggle to lose weight, they're underestimating the calories that they're eating. So once you've got that basic understanding, there's no need to continue stressing over these numbers, unless you're, you know, like a competitive bodybuilder where literally everything matters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to us about Fitt Insider. I'm sure all of the things we talked about relates to what you guys are doing with your podcast and the blog, which is phenomenal. I read a few of those before hopping on.
Yeah. So again, just the kind of evolution of where we were in the fitness industry and the business. At some point, we made the transition online, and we were selling information products and actual physical equipment basically all over the world, drop shipping anything that you could ship, from a yoga mat to a treadmill to a kettlebell. And that led us down the path of more so understanding like the business side of the industry. So helping create instructor certifications and content geared towards professionals, then understanding like the technology aspects that were coming into the industry. Now we see that are like, kind of have swept the industry, all the wearables, different tech at home, remote training, different things like that. And we just saw an opportunity to talk about all those things, marrying what we knew as gym owners and trainers and people that have actually worked with clients, all the way up until, how do you start and scale a technology business, raise venture capital, basically distribute content products all over the world, and have started now covering the industry through that lens. So yeah, we send a weekly newsletter. It's free. We have a podcast, talk to founders, executives, investors. And so then we create that content. And we also have a early stage fund where we invest in very early, call it pre-seed or even sometimes pre-product companies in this space. So fitness, health, wellness, nutrition, well-being.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like if you want anything to do like job wise or start your business in the fitness industry, that Fitt Insider is the place to go. I see that you guys also have job listings on your website. That's super cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that we also wanted to do, we think of it as like helping people understand the trends, right? So understand the industry, what's happening, breaking down that news and developments. Like you said, for people who maybe want to work in the industry or already do. And then another thing as we were kind of building it that we heard all the time, constantly, was I'm so passionate about health and fitness. Maybe I don't necessarily want to be a personal trainer, or I don't, I'm not a strength coach, but like, how do I break into the industry? How do I get a job at, a Whoop, a Peloton, an Aura, these cool companies that we see, Nike, whatever. And so, yeah, we created a jobs board. And so that's a free resource. I think on any given day, there's 800, 900, 1,000 jobs available on there. And folks can check them out. And yeah, we've heard from a ton of people who have, we say on there, find your dream job. There are a bunch of people, hundreds, if not thousands at this point, who have used it to, land that job.
That's awesome. I see one on there right now. You can be a copywriter for Noble, which if I was a copywriter, that would be a fucking awesome place to start.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. And then you've got blogs, like some of your most recent blogs are one on stress, one on the future of fitness, which would be interesting to talk about, and the metaverse and how virtual reality is going to play a role, which I was going to say, I think it's all bullshit. I don't think it's all bullshit. I think we're never going to get rid of actually working out outside with people, like the gym community. That's never going away. I think for people who, I don't know, I think it may do more harm than good, at least in the short term, until we start to figure things out. Like being outside in the sunlight is actually much better than being inside with your VR headset on with the artificial lights and the EMFs all over. So it'll be interesting, to say the least.
It's the contradiction of my life. Like every day thinking about what I do, right? And what I know, and all the basics of fitness are free. Sleep, eat healthy food, move your body, spend time outdoors, like all the things that we all know. And at the same time, obesity, depression, heart disease, like everything off the charts, terrible. So it's like, what is happening? Why are we not able to do the basics that we, if you don't know, you have an idea, like, nobody's,
not to eat that donut.
Nobody's completely unaware. Right.
Yeah.
So I look at that and I'm like, I have a garage gym. I work out by myself. Like we talked about, whatever, super committed to the game. But there are still tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people that the current solutions or approaches aren't working for them. So will I be in the metaverse and gaming and wearing a VR headset? No, I won't be. Will that help somebody somewhere live a healthier lifestyle, or at least move, or at least try to experience exercise in that environment? I hope so. And if it does, like, good on them, and they found their thing that works. And so that's how we've kind of come to it now with like the content, and also like the investing piece. It's like, these things might not be for me, and they might not be for people who are already the committed health and fitness seeker or athlete, but like, hopefully it will help another person who needs it, like, find their path. So yeah, time will tell.
Last question, in 30 seconds or less, what is the thing that you're most excited for in the fitness industry? Fitness/wellness. What
we were just talking about there, like this accessibility. How do you make all of these things, the kind of knowledge that folks have, or the high priced premium experiences, or the devices that, are not widely accessible? How do you make them more affordable? How do you get them to more people? And how do you, make sure that they're driving them towards solutions which are better health outcomes?
Love it. And where can we find more about you and Fitt Insider?
Yeah, check us out. It's insider.fit.co. Just Google it, Fitt Insider. You'll be able to find it. And yeah, check it out. The jobs board, blog, podcast, all the above.
Sweet. Links will be in the show notes of this podcast. And to close it out with that phrase you got behind you, work hard and be nice to people.
For sure.
Love it.